Good afternoon. I'm Kate Bulkley. I'm a media commentator in the UK, and I'm here to run this MIPCube session, Collaborative Publishing to Video Satire. This is a MIPCube New Media Moguls event. We're going to hear from two different companies which have made the transition basically from print to video online in a big way, and they've got some interesting, I think, stories and perspectives to tell us, and also hopefully they'll be a bit provocative as well, which I think is part of the reason for these. They're both going to speak, and then we're going to have a little chat together. So our first speaker is Andrew Creighton. He is the president of Vice Media US. He joined Vice in 2001 to launch Vice in Europe. 2 years ago, he moved to New York City to run global for Vice. Vice is an interesting company. Actually, last year they bought a print title ID in the UK. And they are originally from print, but they've moved heavy into video. They've got 5 video channels now, and he says there'll be 5 more, I think, before the end of the year. It began as a fanzine in 1994, so that's its heritage, so we'll hear from him. And the other thing I just want to say is, if you're wondering what that is on the desk in front of Andrew and our other guest, that is an award that Andrew just won, TV Brand of the Year Award for a project they did with Intel. So congratulations to you. Enough said. Andrew Creighton. You need the clicker. Sorry, where's the clicker? There it is. Oh, that's yours? I think it'll work. I believe it's the same. If it's not, you'll just have to do his slides. That'll be difficult.
Thanks. We're on a clock down. It's interesting. There's a clock that counts down here, which tells you don't have much time. So Vice Media Worldwide, don't know if you know about us at all. If you don't, quick update. We say we're the world's leading independent youth media company, founded in 1994, first movers in online video, 35 offices now and 4,000 employees. This is a graph that goes up and to the right.
It's always good.
Which is always good. So we launched Vice.com, our new URL, about 18 months ago, and we've gone from 2 million to we're going to be at 25 million uniques, so growing super fast. 500% growth in mobile and 20+ minute session time on site, which is kind of unheard of on the web. And people are saying we're worth $1 billion, which is nice. It's a nice round number, which I like in the press. Whether it's a headline or it's real, I don't know, but I'll take it. So the question is kind of what the fuck? How can a company like Vice, some outsiders from Williamsburg and from the outside of culture and a subcultural brand, be worth $1 billion and growing so fast? And it's because it's like this huge, perfect, beautiful storm in media. You guys will probably know all the stats better than me, but you know, daytime median TV is 50+ now on average. It's getting very old. And the young people, the millennials, are a $2 trillion opportunity around the world, and they're not being served. They're not being served by advertising on television, and they're not being served by advertising on online. So there's no formats that work for them. So just to sort of contextualize what these young people are, 1995 is when someone who was 18 years old was born, which is terrifying. In 1995, the mobile phone was 11 years old. They have never, in their history, not had the internet and been able to search for something. And 10 billion web pages were available to them when I went to secondary school in the UK. So they're innately connected. Their connectors make the mobilization of ideas and opinions very, very easy. What does that mean? They're all talking, so there's a huge amount of clutter, mass amounts of clutter. These stats are 60 minutes of content goes up to YouTube every second. 6,000 tweets every second. So in the time I just said to do that, you had 18,000 tweets. Facebook, 7,000 status updates every single second. So there's a huge amount of noise and there's a massive amount of clutter. So how do you stand out? You know, the problem that you have in TV world and being at a TV conference and thinking about it is the EPG is already a disaster. Like, who can find what to watch when they're trying to look for something? 700, 800 channels. Imagine when smart TVs are actually finally connected, it's all just search. So the clutter's just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. So how do you stand out? Loyalty, we think, has changed. The rules of online loyalty are very, very different to the rules of TV loyalty. Again, the EPG gave you some loyalty just by history, gave you by number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, everyone bidding for those things. It's not going to be the same anymore. All of a sudden, TV is going to be up against not just the other formats that are out there, it's going to be up against the SEO agencies, the viral agencies, the content farms, all these people who are massive experts in this, and it's not going to be the same rules of engagement are not going to be the same, so you have to come up with new things in order to succeed. You're already up against them, everybody is already up against them in terms of the money, but we have to find solutions. So it's a new market. So if you make content, you'll sell your content on a new open market. Will your ratings and will your formats really be guided by keyboard cats and and dogs on skateboards? I hope not, because it's like, how derivative really will your content have to become in order for it to succeed? We already see it at the conferences that the formats get more and more derivative, the same thing again and again, just repackaged in different ways. If you're competing on the online in the same way, it's going to be much, much harder. It doesn't have to be that way. We started our YouTube experiment a couple of years ago, and last year really got kick-started. Original content with YouTube, totally unique, and we're seeing massive subscriber growth, massive watch time on that platform. So we have 2 million subscribers. We're in the top 0.01 percentile in monthly sub growth. Watch time, 0.1% again, and the #1 channel in all of watch time in the YouTube original channel programs, top 100 biggest sub-site, and highest engagement and sentiment ratio. So the key is you have to work with the best content, but make it for the digital age. You have to have a voice is the most important thing. Without a voice, you don't have a real brand. If you don't have a real brand, you don't have a real audience. And so what we have to do together is make sure that you have a brand that's socially connected at the same time. So what's happened in formats is the brands themselves, the networks, have beholden the power to the shows and have beholden the power to the talent. What we have to get back to is the networks have to have a strong voice and a strong brand and a strong feeling. So when people come to them, they know, even if they don't know what's coming out tomorrow, they still trust in what they're going to do. And that's what we've done with Vice very successfully. So there's huge opportunities to make new brands, new networks, and there's also big opportunities for existing networks to come back into this fold and make more brand loyalty out of their network rather than being beholden to the talent. How? We just have to change the operating procedure a little bit from being solely in the operating procedure of TV or solely in the operating procedure online, work together in the right way and take the best of both and leave the crap behind, and we can actually be successful. But you have to be 360. You have to think about the audience and think about what the audience want. The audience want to be social, connected, TV, online, events. Real brands out of the networks is what you need to do, and you'll create a successful network. We're doing it. We have 5 brands right now. We have 10 more launching over the next 2 years, 5 more this year. And so we're building all these brands. It's just a huge, massive opportunity for us all. So we're super excited. And the most important brand we're launching over the next year is the news channel. News is where it's most apparent that there's a massive, massive gap and opportunity in this market. Why? Because even more so in news, it's aging up more. In the US, 60 plus. Fox News, CNN, MSNBC are 60 plus on average. Again, the $2 trillion opportunity. Gen Y, 75% of them are getting their news from other sources, social sources, and 67% of them don't trust their fucking news sources. They don't trust their establishments. They're pissed off, and no one's doing anything about it. Yeah. Viewership's in massive decline. This isn't a new trend. Everyone knows it's happening, but it's in the biggest decline in 18 to 29-year-olds. Less than a third of people watch any TV news. Less than a third of 18 to 29-year-olds watch any news on TV yesterday. And so the common parlance is maybe these people just don't care. Maybe they just don't care about news. Maybe they're disenfranchised. But we ask them, and they do. They're interested in world news more than ever, more interested in the last 12 months than ever. They're unhappy with their news sources, and all they want is thought, provocation, and transparency in what they're doing. And so it's just a huge, huge opportunity. So for us, the most exciting channel we're launching this year is news, and I just want to show you a quick reel, and then I'm done.
Fixed News, Fox Noise, Cluster Fox.
One of the other news networks, one of the clearly non-God-fearing hosts.
Somewhere out there, the devil is dancing tonight.
But, Stu,
oh my God.
It does. What matters, I mean, if you're misquoting the...
News is fucked. Over the last decade, mainstream media has devolved from legitimate discourse into schoolyard bullying and partisan shouting matches. Our fourth estate has failed at its most important job, keeping the public informed and holding powerful figures in check.
Network and cable news shows cater to an increasingly old demographic,
Young people have become completely disenchanted with the mainstream media. Fortunately for them, the internet has changed everything. As the Arab Spring, Occupy movement, and WikiLeaks have demonstrated, the internet is not just capable of reporting the news, it's shaping the events that make the news and fueling full-on revolution.
This is what all fear stems from.
That's what I want you to hear.
Vice is at the forefront of this changing of the guard, which goes to show just how screwed up the situation was to begin with.
Just catch that teenager with the handgun?
Because when Vice first started, all we cared about was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But as we expanded and traveled the world, we became interested in news, politics, and the environment. In fact, we were opening new foreign bureaus as fast as most traditional news outlets were closing theirs. Now, we have over 3,000 correspondents on the ground around the world submitting content hourly.
When it comes to protecting our family, we have to die doing it. We're going to.
America's not at war. America's at the mall. People in the military at war.
Vice has reported from the middle of the most important events and conflicts happening across the globe.
We're going to go to Chugat in secret with the political party called Hawk. Their slogan is death to America, death to Israel.
We went to Liberia to meet reformed cannibal soldiers.
It was human flesh.
Okay, we're talking about eating human flesh in a graveyard. It's a bit weird.
We hung out with murderous Russian mobsters turned television moguls. We even went to the Pakistani arms markets where the Taliban buys their guns.
It's time to go gun shopping.
Vice is a real, trustworthy news voice. We are non-political, non-partisan, and fully immersive.
This is the shop for heroin.
Am I fitting in?
We embed ourselves in the narrative to tell the most honest story we can. One that's sincere, character-driven, real, and raw.
Right there is what I have to take on a daily basis to stay alive. They're killing people.
Our reporters are regular people, young faces who viewers relate to and trust, not inflated media personalities telling stories from a soapbox or behind a desk. And it's working. We consistently come back with a completely different story than the one told by the mainstream media.
Yesterday I was interviewing suicide bombers and they were kids.
Vice is the world's new global news source.
We win, never surrender. We win or we die.
Welcome to the future of news.
Thanks.
That's great. Why don't you make sure your slides are up, and I'll just ask Andrew one question. Andrew, I mean, it's interesting. The news thing is fascinating. Okay, give him the clicker. Yeah, the news thing is fascinating. But let me ask you a question. I mean, you know, the big news organizations aren't just going to take this lying down. I mean, how much money are you going to put into this? You know,
$100 million.
$100 million, and where are you getting that from?
Well, I was exaggerating a little bit, but
I was going to say, tweet that. No, yes.
I think the way that we've developed our network allows us to mine the content in a way that's a lot cheaper than the traditional networks.
Okay, because the distribution costs will be a lot cheaper because you're not doing, you know, regular TV, satellites, all that kind of stuff. You're doing the internet.
You're doing the internet.
But you still have to pay the reporters. You have to pay travel. You have to, you know, you have to have some kind of.
There's a huge swathe of people who've come out who are younger, who have self-publishers, have run their own blogs, understand a CMS, can shoot, can cut, can photograph. So this run their own blogs. So they're used to self-publishing, right. And they just don't really have a platform that's global that listens to their voice.
And will you have some kind of editorial oversight? I mean, I'm sorry, but will there be a grown-up in charge in the sense that, you know, somebody who's sort of saying, you know, what kind of integrity do we have here? I mean, I've been in news all my life, and, you know, you don't want somebody saying something that's incorrect.
No, for sure. And so, you know, working through that, and we're working through that right now, but working with some technology companies, working with the Storyful people, working with those organizations, you can start fact-checking the sort of semi-citizen journalism that exists right now, but you just need to put it through a filter. And for us, what we want to create is a toolkit and a toolbox that we give to these reporters, and that's everything from the CMS to physical equipment and so on. So you can... It's
kind of like current TV, but you're going to, it's a little different, more edgy.
The only problem I had with current TV is, you know, we went to North Korea a few times, and I love some of the guys at Current, and I know them very well. but they go to some of the most interesting, crazy places on Earth and manage to make it boring.
Yeah, okay. Enough said. Very interesting. Okay, good. Let's introduce you now. Sorry, this is Scott Dikkers. He is the founding editor of The Onion. The Onion is 25 years old, which just shocked me. But anyway, it now has 100 million monthly views, I think, as Scott told me. He's even surpassed Funny or Die, which is one of their biggest competitors, at least in ad dollar senses. And The Onion still does print, I'll have you know, but obviously since 2006, it's been in the video world, and they've done YouTube channels, etc. And Scott's going to tell us about what The Onion's all about. So, Scott.
Thank you, Kate. It's delightful to be with you here today. So we saw Andrew's statistics, and perhaps you've heard another one that's similar. More young people prefer to get their news today from sources like The Onion and The Daily Show and The Colbert Show than from any other news source. That's a great trend for us. I'm sure you can agree. The Onion is America's finest news source. So in the modern world, really, The Onion is the only thing you need to read to be an informed and enlightened citizen. I'll give you an example of the kind of news I'm talking about. When Barack Obama was elected, our coverage showed black man was given the nation's worst job, of course. Going back to 9/11, on our coverage of that historic day, we reported at the bottom there, you can see that the hijackers were surprised to find themselves in hell. We expected eternal paradise for this. And George Bush, in trying to figure out who we were at war with, blasted the Psychic Friends Network for failing to predict the attacks. Going back even further, we reported in the 90s that drugs had won the drug war. You can see there, drug czar Barry McCaffrey ceding power to the nation's stoners. Back even further, one of the more important stories of the century, holy shit, man walks on fucking moon. So that's a little look at The Onion's past. What about the future? What is the future of news? We obviously know that the media landscape is changing, but how is it changing? And how is The Onion going to be a part of it? Well, we're going to be a huge part of it, of course. With mediums and models being upended, the future is not going to be about the news you need, like global warming. Who cares? Nip slips are what we care about. So, yes, Andrew's statistics showed that young people want to care about world events, but what are they clicking on? They're clicking on the nip slip. At The Onion, we believe we can compete in that environment. Who here has heard of sex? Anyone? Anyone heard of sex? No one? All right, well, I think most of us have heard about it. It's very popular right now. And if we're not hearing about it, we're either doing it or thinking about it. Well, I'd like to tell you about one of the more exciting advances the Onion research and development teams are working on. This The Onion has always been on the forefront of news delivery technology, and we're asking ourselves, like, how can we push the boundaries of innovation? How can we deliver the news in a more powerful way than ever before? In other words, how can we deliver news that satisfies news consumers sexually? All right? It's closer to reality than you think. Let's review some of the important advancements that have gotten us to this threshold. 3 years ago, The Onion introduced ION, Intravenous Onion News. This is a breakthrough in biotech engineering. Readers could now feel the news. When injected, you felt the terror of Syrian refugees personally. You wept alongside a blue ribbon-winning pig. Sales of the ION have now topped $1 billion, so it's safe to say it's been a success, despite erroneous reports of hemorrhages caused by overdosing on the news. So 1 year ago, we introduced the O-chip. This revolutionized the way we perceive news. Implanted in the limbic systems of over 85% of our readers, most voluntarily. These small circuit boards gave readers a first-hand perspective on the news. Readers, or readroids as we call them, took on fun new personalities indistinguishable from the types of news products they consume. So if you like reading The Onion's local police blotter, you might feel the sudden urge to rob a liquor store. If you read a lot of entertainment news, you might become a clown. The ION and the O-chip were thrilling news media firsts, but we dared to ask, what if we combine the agony of the intravenous news with the control of the O-chip? And we introduced O-vitro, a product perhaps ahead of its time. O-vitro literally inseminates readers with news stories. And this resulted in some ill-gotten growths brought to term, unspeakable abominations, and so forth. It was science gone wrong, and we acknowledged that, and we learned a lot of important lessons. Don't play God and all that. But we didn't give up. That's the key. We kept our eye on the prize, and here we are today. Introducing the newsgasm. This sexy advancement in news taps the mammalian brain's pleasure center with an artificial surge of hormones, not unlike those that stimulate growth in beef cattle, and which our meat companies use to administer to heifers in the form of synthetic androgen pellets inserted under the animal's skin. So really, the technology is no different than the fast food hamburgers and chili that you eat every day. How does it work? It's a pair of high-tech news undergarments that stimulate the sexual organs directly with a liquid silicon-based current events congealant. Have any of you tried this news product? It's pretty amazing. For those who haven't, it's important to fit the news garment snugly over the genitals. If the news gets into the bloodstream instead of the sex organs, the blood is replaced with an instant news feed and the subject doesn't survive long. The newsgasm is still in beta, but I do encourage everyone to give it a go. Early trials have produced mixed but promising results, ranging from moaning and heaving to a slight increase in pleasurable response to international news. So we're definitely getting somewhere with this product. Here are some warnings I'm required by law to show you. And that's an exciting glimpse into the future of news, courtesy of The Onion. Thank you.
Okay, so for those of you who are not native English speakers, you might know that that was parody. What I love about that is actually some of those things aren't so far-fetched, which is what's really kind of scary. But when you got to the intravenous one, I thought, you know, that I could actually see that as a product, which is kind of frightening. What's interesting about, you know, you both have very different, obviously, approaches, you know, in terms of news and what you want. But it's also very different from what established news is doing. I mean, I don't want to just talk about news. I want to talk about everything. But it seems like to me that one of the issues that's going on is how do you stand out in this very competitive landscape? You know, I mean, how do you stand out with news? How do you stand out with, you know, parody news? How do you actually make it work or get your stuff surfaced so that people actually see it and you don't just become a niche site? Do you want to start with that?
Sure, yeah. For us, it's all about the medium. And so it's all about the medium. And if your medium is the internet, and if it's internet video, you have to start from square one with your product and say, well, how does this medium work? How do people use it? And adapt what you do to that. And for us, in comedy, context is everything. Function follows form. So you have to look at what the rules of the medium are, and you have to play by those rules. Mm-hmm. So that's how we've done it. And
of course, the internet really has no rules, so
it does.
Does it?
Yeah. The first rule is there are no rules. No, yeah. It does have some rules. It does have
in terms of how people interact or
yep.
share and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, what do you think?
I think some of the same rules apply to the best of TV. Like the content just has to be really good, first and foremost, and it will help rise to the top. Then you've got to be super smart about how you help it rise to the top using the tools of the internet. And I was rushing through, but if you take the best of TV, which was, you know, there's still some fantastic talent and great content on television when it's at its best. You just take that and put it with the best of the internet, and then you can rise it to the top. It's just about great content. Mm-hmm. What happens is, you know, whenever you have a controlled distribution scenario, which is what television became, you get sort of a stifling of creativity. And so the commercial models for online have just been tricky. And so part of the challenge for us was figuring out how to fix the commercial model that we could underwrite the creatives that we wanted to do. And they used to come to us for free, and now they come to us for a little bit less than free. But you know, we found a model that can make it work. But that freedom for creatives, that they can get their stuff seen, watched, listened to, voice heard, is still a massive driver for the internet. You just got to build a platform that allows it to propagate.
Do you find that as well with The Onion? Do you find, Scott, that people want to work for you and they're willing to, because it's such a creative place, they can be funny, they can do parodies, they can let their imagination take them away?
Yeah, I think back to when I was a teenager or fresh out of college. The only way you could get your work seen was to submit it to a festival. There was a chasm between me and my products and the viewing public. Yeah. It was either that or send it to an agent. Maybe they would be able to hook you up with the idea of having a TV show. That's crazy. Now all my friends have TV shows. Right. It's like the world is completely flattened. And so what's going to rise to the top, like Andrew said, is the best content. Every day, somebody in the world has the best, funniest idea they've ever had in their whole lives, and they're going to put it on YouTube. That's going to be the funniest thing that day. You can't compete with that. And I like that. I think that's great. I love the idea of a meritocracy, and right now the internet is the medium that's the closest to that.
Yeah. Both you guys are kind of in the business of authentic voice. I mean, it seems to me. It's Vice is, you're saying we're closer. We're trying to be as objective as we can. We're trying to be real. We're not sort of, I mean, I remember when I was in television, there was a lot of discussion about how my hair wasn't big enough. Okay, I had to have bigger hair because when I was on air, they had to puff up my hair.
Our
and I was
hair
like,
isn't
why?
big enough either.
Why? Yeah, what?
Our hair isn't big enough either. It looks
Yes, you would have a problem. But the thing is, it's like that is such artificial stuff, really. Okay, so it's all about, your thing is all about authenticity, and also, when I ask the hard questions about, who has the editorial control, that's important too, but it's also about being real about these subjects, a different kind of reporting.
Yeah, I think so, and I think authenticity is sort of a bandied around word, so what does it actually mean? But I think for us, it was just we talk to the audience in the language they talk to each other. So I'm from England, and we were brought up in pubs, and the way you talk to each other is in a certain vernacular, and that vernacular does not translate to the BBC. When I think Freddie Lundberg was on Match of the Day the other day, and he said a swear word on Match of the Day 2 at 11:30 by accident, and it was shut down. They had to apologize and had to do this, and because he said shit. And you're like, it doesn't matter. Everyone says shit. Everyone knows what it means. Yeah. No one's actually offended, or maybe some people are, but most people aren't. And so it became a huge a national thing. So they had to spend 5 minutes of airtime talking about it to retract it. You're like, that's just ridiculous in this day and age with social media and everything else. Everyone knows everything about everything. Just relax a little bit and just talk in an honest voice.
Well, the rules are different,
Yeah, one of the rules of the internet is authenticity. And if something is has some pretense or has a facade, people on the internet are not interested in that. It's like immediately shut down. There are things that happen online that's like, a fake prank. It's never going to work. Like, people want to see the genuine reaction to somebody, falling or being the victim of a prank. Traditional TV is all about the facade. It's about the big hair. So The Onion makes fun of that, and it's a great target because right now, like, they're the big boys. Not for long, but they are right now, and in the future, it's definitely going to be
different,
continually marginalized. That type of presentation.
Do you think that, is the money going to follow? Is it easy to get the money to follow into these kind of things?
No,
obviously the Daily Show gets a lot of money.
Yeah.
They get advertising, and they're fairly irreverent in the TV context.
It's never going to change. I'm joking. We all know it's going to change. It's already starting to change.
Yeah, I think, well, it's already changed to a certain degree. But the problem is not so much TV. I think the problem has been the internet to date has kind of fucked it up. The internet should be better than TV, but mostly the shows have been derivative of TV. Like TV's derivative of itself, and the internet's been derivative of TV. And, well, it shouldn't be. It should be better. And, there's commercial pressures with the price pressures on CPM, everything getting bought through exchanges, so the prices are going down and down and down. So it's sort of eating itself a little bit through this mass inventory scale. And you just have to say no. So the good content creators have to say no at some point. And it's getting there, but it'll be 10 years before we figure it out. But it's been 10 years since I've been talking about it. So we're just in the middle of it right now.
Yeah, it just keeps changing so quickly. That's the fascinating thing about the internet. That's why I like working in it. It's our primary medium right now. It's where we make the lion's share of our revenue. And it is really rapidly changing.
Versus print, right? Yeah.
Yeah, print is dying, and it's fun, but it's like, you know, being the organ when the synthesizer is being invented. You know?
Yeah.
We are seeing for the first time like a real mainstreaming of the openness to the idea a lot more. Not only from the agencies and the media buyers, which I think is a function of people who've grown up with it, getting into positions of power as much as anything, as well as the talent. So the talent in LA or wherever around the world wants to be exposed, is sick of the constraints of the controlled distribution as well, and they want to get out there, and they're opening themselves up to taking a hit to get some back end and so on. So as soon as some people go, and to be fair to YouTube, they dipped their toe in the water last year, really changed some mainstream attitudes as well. So
you mean funding the original channels? And
exactly.
Yeah.
So some of the big production companies said, okay, well they've taken a jump, so we have to take a jump as well. Now they're loss leading and maybe doing it in the wrong way, but it's changing. So it's in the mail. And how it happens, we don't know, but I think being in the mix and just making great content and being smart about it is the way forward.
What happens if Time Warner, which owns CNN, decides they want to buy you?
Well, as it happens.
That's the headline for The Onion tomorrow.
No, I think that's one of those things when AOL bought Time Warner.
Yeah.
It's like, that may seem attractive right now, but in 10 years, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky for us. Everyone came to see us, and there was a famous tweet from Mr. Murdoch who came out to our office and wandered around, and we had a glass of tequila with him, which was entertaining.
There's the tweet, Murdoch drinks tequila.
Yeah. He preferred the red wine, but we forced him into a margarita, and it worked out. But yeah, everyone came out to see us, but we're just having too much fun, so why would we do it? And what can they actually offer at this stage?
Well, money, theoretically.
Yeah, you know, if we're self-sustaining and we're good. I mean, they just put an investment into Maker Studios, for instance, and everyone's sort of land grabbing. Someone just bought a bit of full screen, and so everyone's sort of buying this. But they're kind of buying inventory rather than buying the talent at this stage, because they're protecting themselves against the future. For us, if we can figure out a distribution solution without having to sell anything, then it's a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is, I suppose, one of the problems is to make sure you get distributed everywhere and you don't have to pay over the odds to get your content out there, get it streamed, all those back-end stuff, CDNs and delivery. But I mean, are you solving that, or is that a big problem?
Well, again, it's being solved for us. I mean,
because YouTube's doing it.
Well, YouTube's doing it, and just the internet's doing it, and just the smart TVs will do it, and everything else will do it. We only came about because of democratization of technology, and so we were a magazine. You're a free magazine. We're a free magazine. Why are we free? Because controlled distribution, when you go through the other institutions, stifles creativity. They want to put celebrities on the cover, or cover mounts on the cover, or these things to sell them. So we said, no, we want to control our own. We're just doing exactly the same thing in the web. So anything that controls or stifles the creativity or the development of the talent or what we want to do or what we want to say, we'll say no to, and everything's opening up. So we're just in the right place at the right time. So it's really lucky.
Cool. Any questions from the audience? If we can have the lights up. There's one here in the front. And if there's one here, yeah. Is there another one somewhere? Go ahead.
I've got a question because sometimes I'm watching news, in Polish, in French, in US, UK, and it's true that every information is interpreted and changed by the country where you are. So my question is, your chain is in United States, etc., but when the real people, they are commenting the news, it's quite subjective, no?
In news? Yeah, for sure. I mean, so when we launch, the idea is we're going to launch in 18 countries and 18 languages with the news channel in Q4. So it has to be local. And so we're picking up this network of global correspondents who are going to feed into this global news network. We're going to have instantaneous translation, instantaneous reversioning, and all this stuff, because technology allows us to do it for very cheap now.
But what do you do, for example, if there's like one subject, but you can have like two different point of view?
Yeah, and so that's the point. I think we're working with this really interesting company called Branch right now, which is a guy called Jason Good. We're building a new technology infrastructure for the news channel, and we don't think the commenting infrastructure is the smartest way to comment on the articles, but elevating the smartest comments and putting them into an actual discussion with the author and with the people who are involved in it is what we want to do. So we're creating this, someone else created the technology called Branch, which invites people in to talk about what they've just watched in an informed way if they're adding some genuine opinion to it. So I think the commenting architecture can be a really valuable piece of content if it's done and controlled and moderated in interesting ways. And so we're trying to put that technology into what we're doing.
But like these 18 different 18 different languages, like if there's a big news event, let's say there's, I don't know, a bomb in the Middle East. I mean, the people in the Middle East might report that different than somebody who's looking in. Do you see what I mean?
Sure.
So will you have different reports on the same story, or?
I think the master report will come out of the people on the ground in the action. So
right. And then you'll have the branch commenting.
Yeah, our core way of doing things is being the people who are on the ground in there and trusting their opinion and then commenting on that afterwards. But we have to take that as our lead source.
Okay. Yes, there was one over here.
Hello. Yeah. In terms of the commercial part, there's the editorial part. Curating the editorial is important. And then what about the commercial part? How are you going to kind of find a balance? Traditional media is under tremendous pressure, especially in the area of paid content. So how are you going to, find the fine balance? In India, for instance, editorial is being sold in different publications because, there's pressures of commerce.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we do that a lot at The Onion. We basically have an in-house agency because all brands want now is to be integrated in content. And that works great for The Onion because a lot of our video products and a lot of our news products, podcast, are parodies of traditional media which have advertising. So we can insert hip advertisers into that who are part of the joke. And we can even make fun of them a little bit, and they can be a part of the humor. That's what everybody wants, and that's how you sell the premium advertising. The sort of ad network stuff, isn't going to pay anybody's bills. The run-of-site stuff, but and I know Vice has really pioneered some stuff. I mean, they won this really fancy-looking medal thing today for that for that very thing, for integrating content.
Yeah, I mean, our thought on the process, and there's a big debate about church and state, and I agree with them in the traditional method, but things have changed. So we need brands to fund culture. We need brands to fund the things that we need. We've just got to get into the process early enough so it's a win-win-win. So with the Creators Project, for instance, it's going to be harder in news specifically. We're not going to have, Vice Guide to Liberia sponsored by McDonald's. They don't want to hang out with, be associated with cannibals. It's probably not the best thing for them. But within the construct of that, do people want to be involved with an environmental show? Do the people want to be involved in a sustainability show? For sure. And then our other verticals that we build around it will go into music, technology, science, entertainment, things that are safer havens for brands, where there's a more natural place for them to talk to the audience as well. And the bigger picture is obviously we're going to go into some sort of subscription model once we build up our audience in the news channel over a period of time.
That's interesting. So there'll be some kind of subscription at some point.
We want to build volume first, and then we'll start going to subscription. We'd love to do news without the potentially the need for brands.
Yeah, it's different in different mediums too. I mean, people are still watching TV, and they'll pay to subscribe to something like Amazon, where we just did a pilot that has a totally different advertising model for that.
It's interesting because like the Colbert Report, he does I almost call it product placement, where he'll actually talk about a brand, but it'll be kind of funny, slightly, anarchic. I mean, it's kind of, parody almost, and yet the brand is paying for it.
Yeah, it's tricky because you don't really see that in news. So to make that work, he does it really well, and people come to us, and we try to come up with ideas for how to do that all the time. Yeah. And it's tricky.
Yeah. On this award, Intel are a co-producer of the content. So there's no product placement in anything we do. They're funding the content that we want to make, and they have a production credit, and they're a branded credit. So they're actually funding the content and the experiences and the technology and the new IP that we want to make together. And
so they didn't say to you, you can't say this, or you must use an Intel Inside computer, or whatever.
No, they don't, but it only works because it's naturally works with the program, which is talking about artists and technology and how they use technology. So it's authentic in that space. It's not jammed in.
So integrated doesn't have to mean they're part of the content or you're promoting their product as part of your content. They just want to be a part of it in some way. If you can make them part of it, if they're brand aligned, content aligned, stuff like that. We've thought there are a lot of different ways you can do that. You just have to be creative about it.
Right.
Yeah, but can you say that Intel is outpricing its chips? Can you say that on the show at any stage, that it's charging too much for its chips? Can you say that?
In the context of my news channel, I can certainly say that. Within the Creators Project, that's not the editorial brief, which is...
I'm talking about the news side.
Yeah, of course.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions before we wrap up? There's another one. There's one over there, way over there. Oops.
I heard you talk a bit about merchandise, like the news panties, and I'm wondering if you actually have a merchandising strategy and if your business model allows for things like back-end revenue share.
Yeah, the news garments are $4.99, available on the Onion store, $6.99 for plus size.
What I love is he does it with a straight face.
Yeah, the Onion store, you know, is a small but not insignificant part of our revenue, and we do a lot of D2C business. We sell books. We've done some TV. So, you know, anything to have another leg to stand on besides the advertising model is good. So we develop all of those, and the Onion store, you know, does a brisk business, and we have a lot of different types of products, not just Onion merchandise, but like other, you know, funny products that we didn't come up with. Mm-hmm. So that's been a really interesting revenue experiment for us.
We have a store and no one buys anything out of it.
People, I hear that problem a lot. Like, how do you get your merchandise to sell? And I think it ultimately, I'm surprised to hear that.
Angry Birds, because Angry Birds sells more merchandise than they do.
I think it's the same thing as content. It has to be good, and we've done a very, very substandard job.
Well, I think it's about the brand too. If they love the brand, they're going to want to wear the hat.
Yeah.
You know, so. I do think a lot of this comes back to the brand.
Okay. Listen, you guys have been fascinating. I think it's really interesting to hear what you're doing in this space, particularly with the news, with both of you. So could you please join me in thanking Scott Dikkers and also Andrew Creighton.
Thank you.